Hi, good morning to everyone who's on the West Coast and good afternoon to everyone on the East Coast. My name is Elizabeth Yu and you are joining us today with ZEISS and the Sweet Hour series. We'll be really discussing the details and the benefits of VERACITY Surgical and how we can use that for the surgeon to reclaim their time. With me, we have great faculty. We have Dr. Brandon Ayers, who's a cornea, cataract, and refractive surgeon with Ophthalmic Partners of Pennsylvania. He is also one of the leaders of the cornea service at Wills Eye Hospital. We have Dr. Yuri McKee, who's also a corneal and refractive surgery specialist at East Valley Ophthalmology in Mesa, Arizona. And of course, Dr. Joe Parisi, who is a cataract and refractive surgeon at Clemson Eye in South Carolina. He also serves as the medical director of Eye Health America. So let's talk about our outcomes and our time as a surgeon when we're thinking about cataract surgery from start to finish, given greater precision and also greater efficiencies in that planning process. So precision-driven outcomes, let's talk about where we are with cataract surgery and some of the challenges that we have. A lot of what we do is in analog. So this is an example of the process that I go through with a lifestyle questionnaire. Of course, we are getting multiple diagnostics. At a minimum, I'm getting at least a biometry with my LensStar or an IOL master. Certainly placido disc topography, and we have two different ones in certain locations. I utilize LED topography as well to capture more information with regards to astigmatism management. Some get tomography, and also we get that OCT of the macula. This I'm doing more and more in all of my patients in order to get a better sense and not to miss things that I may miss on that slit lamp clinical examination. I also think that getting a sense of what's going on with their dry eye disease and that meibography is extremely important. And that is part of all of my cataract surgery evaluations. And then we take that, we're comparing the different curvature results, but we're going from one data piece to another piece, which alone takes time. We're also running multiple formulas and then comparing all of that information and then coupling that with other comorbidities, their lifestyle, their desires, reevaluating that lifestyle questionnaire. So those challenges take time. So it can take upwards of 15 minutes per patient, depending on how complex the patient's eye is and what they're interested in. So if we have a way to automate that process, there's certain benefits to that. One, of course, the transcription errors alone, and eliminating those transcription errors, we can save time. And certainly that can help us to drive better decisions and ease that patient education process as well. So what if we do have a planning tool that is digital, that's customizable? Even that questionnaire that I just showed you, if it is something that pulls up and we can click right through it and automatically assimilate some of the information that is specific to the patient and also upload any other information from a diagnostic perspective, and within a few click-throughs, just to demonstrate the benefits of what we can do, I've been able to take what can take upwards of 15 minutes and reduce each evaluation process by 3 to 5 minutes. That is a huge time savings, and it also is a lot less time for me from a perspective of being on screen and kind of flipping through the various diagnostics. So this is a patient example. We're looking at Mr. Smith, who we are scheduling surgery for both eyes. So we can compare and contrast some of that information with regards to the amount of astigmatism. And as you can see, you can very easily decide which lens and which target you are looking for. And all of that is displayed very clearly. Now, some of that information, we've already decided that we are aiming for emetropia, and they were looking to utilize a trifocal lens, for example. And so those will be that information that pulls up immediately. With regards to the various keratometry values, as you could see, all of it is on one screen, and you can compare that information as to exactly what you're hoping to achieve with that astigmatic correction as well as that average corneal power, and ultimately then decide what backup lenses do I need? Is this information what I'm looking for? And then any patient-specific comorbidities like the use of a Malyugin ring and otherwise. And here, as you can see then, if you are interested, and of course, looking at the quality of the imaging as well, you can easily click through within the VERACITY system itself without looking from one uploaded image to another uploaded image within your actual EMR. And then VERACITY, as you saw, has those different alerts when there are any kind of unique variables that you're looking for. Other benefits, I can carry this through into the operating room. As you can see, we can put in any specific information that we're looking for, and then ultimately that prints out that op note, or it goes straight into VERACITY. And lastly, the most beneficial parts of the system are the post-operative analytics, as you can see here. So this can very quickly, within seconds, take your number of cataract procedures, take the different cases, utilizing the post-operative information, see what your prediction refractive error is, look at the scatter plot, as well as see which formula might be the best for you. And you can also compare between the various different lenses that you use. So instead of something like this, which would take hours upon hours, it can be done within minutes, and you can refine yourself as a surgeon post-operatively. So certainly, where are some of those challenges that we experience when there is data amongst the different patients and the locations with regards to the various locations? You want to take that information from the clinic to your ASC. You're either bringing a chart with you or you're bringing paperwork, so certainly there. And what about the information coming in from your referring doctor? That can be a challenge as well to get. What about your different devices? And getting all that information together into one location can pose a challenge in itself and can be time consuming. And lastly, all the various people that are involved, from your scheduler to the business office. And of course, what about the various different doctors that are within your clinic? Even amongst our 5 cataract surgeons, the way we specifically want our information displayed and what our favorite formula may be will vary from doctor to doctor. I certainly know that, for me, while I'm very keen on looking at that LED topography to look at the orientation of the posterior corneal curvature, that's not going to be something that's as of much concern for someone else who's not managing astigmatism in a certain patient. So that is all also going to be quite different in the practice pattern variability there. So the information that can be automatically uploaded into the VERACITY Surgical software is not just the IOL master information, but clearly, as you can see here, it's going to be other preoperative information as well as that back and forth connectivity to be able to utilizing that data that's within VERACITY and brought into your operating room for your digital marking system with the Callisto or with your actual microscope itself. And as I mentioned, then you close that loop and you are able to refine yourself as a surgeon postoperatively and get that analytics the way you need to see it in order to get your postoperative results as refined as possible and hopefully, get within 94, 96% within a prediction refractive error of less than half a diopter. And right now we're able to do that. We're able to do that because we do have better formulas, we do have better data, and now we can utilize software to help us in that realm. So thank you very much. Now I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Yuri McGee, who will go through the patient education and the lens selection process.
Well, hi folks, this is Yuri McKee. Welcome to the ZEISS VERACITY webinar. I'm going to show you a couple things today. This is the ZEISS questionnaire that we do for every patient, and I'm changing a couple things around in this patient because he chose to have no premium upgrades, but I'm going to show you how I could have upgraded him. And basically what I'm saying here is that he wants to be less dependent on glasses for distance. He has no history of refractive surgery or monovision, and that he is willing to pay out of pocket. And I'm marking down he does have some mild glaucoma and some mild epiretinal membranes here. So once you do these questions, which are driven by the patient, I do it right in front of the patient. We can jump over to the planning screen. This eye has already been done. He did choose a monofocal lens for that eye, and that's fine. His outcome is pretty good. He's pretty happy with it. He was a moderate myope before we started. But let's just say that we want to talk to him more about the left eye. You can see I've got it planned for a monofocal lens. But I'm going to unapprove that plan, and I'm going to go in here and make a few changes. I'm going to say, look, you're going to have about a diopter of astigmatism left based on the final predicted refraction here. But what if we went and did a toric lens for you? If we did toric lens, you can see we get an immediate recalculation, and now we're just down to about a third of a diopter of astigmatism. But that flips the astigmatism meridian there. You can see it's actually at 0.83, and he's with the rule at that point, flipped from against the rule. The Barrett universal formula is automatically programmed into veracity. I can change the power of the lens, the spherical power. Then you have your Abulafia-Koch or Barrett. I'm using the Barrett toric formula. They're coming out about the same, but I can maybe play with that power a little bit. We'll come back to that. First, I want to ensure that I am using the Barrett integrated K. So I have my lens star, pentacam, and IOL master all lined up there. That's giving me keratometric values of 0.68 diopters of astigmatism at 174. That's using the predicted posterior power, not the measured posterior keratometry. So what if I were just to take down the power of the toric lens just by a notch there, go down to a ZCT 150, and then I'm down to just 0.12 diopters, and still against the rule. So maybe you want to flip them to with the rule because you think you might drift some more. Then you go a little bit higher. But in this case, I think that leaving him against the rule, as he already is probably fine to get that small amount. So I'm going to push things back because that's not what he chose. I'm going to say, look, you chose this monofocal lens with no toricity. It's going to leave you with a diopter of astigmatism. Is that what you really want? A lot of patients say, no, I don't want that. Now let's say that we decide that we want a multifocal lens. So I'm going to change the patient questionnaire to distance and near vision, and the other answers remain the same. No history of monovision, no history of refractive surgery, and willing to pay out of pocket for these upgrades. And then we'll go back to the dashboard and into our plan. And what I have to do now is just go back into my IOL model selection, and there you can see there's a star next to EDOF toric lens. That's what the computer is now recommending. So the Technis Symphony, and immediately I get a recalculation of the lens, and it's showing us that we should use a Technis Symphony to achieve what we want. Of course, we won't do this because he's already had a monofocal in the other eye, again, just for examples. But I'm using the Barrett Universal for the spherical power, and I can switch on the fly to the hill. You can see the difference there in the predicted spherical equivalent. They're very close. And once again, I can use the Barrett toric calculator, maybe bring that down to a 150 power, so that once again we get a lower residual astigmatism even though it stays against the rule. It doesn't flip them back to with the rule. And I can show that to the patient on the fly. And that's really where the toric IOL selections happen in my clinic, is as I do these calculations in front of the patient, I say, what do you want your glasses to look like, if at all? And this really gets people thinking. They can see exactly what I'm talking about as I switch back and forth between different toric powers or between a monofocal lens without toricity and with toricity. So this helps a lot. This really seals the deal for a lot of patients to get the lens that's really going to give them the best visual result. Most of the multifocal lens decision is driven by the patient's choices in the patient questionnaire. But most of the toric choices are driven right here as I go through lens powers and toricity and show them their final predicted refraction. That's where it makes a big difference. And I show them using the Barrett integrated K and all these other options. This is a nice option right here. I've got my backup lenses already calculated and ready to go depending on what's going on. That's going to be in my surgical plan in the OR. I have to clear my warnings. It's just warning me about things like the fact that there's glaucoma and epiretinal membrane. So these are all nice things to know before you go into surgery. And so I'm going to go ahead and improve this plan just temporarily. I'll change it back for this patient later. But let's just say that's what we were going to do, and then we go over to the OR module. And this is what we'd see in the operating room. This is the timeout I would use on the computer screen, showing us exactly which eye, which patient, which lens, model, power, toricity, and the meridian that we want to place that toric lens in. But here I notice, oops, standard phaco. I'd usually be doing a femtosecond laser with a toric lens. So I can go right back into my plan, unapprove it, scroll through my surgical method to femtosecond laser, reapprove that plan, and jump right back into the OR module. And in seconds, even in the OR there, I've corrected my plan. We're ready to go. I can review all these other important bits of information on the screen there. Now, the nice thing about VERACITY is that when you are done with surgery, if everything has gone completely according to plan, you can click on this Documents tab right here, and it will generate an operative note for you that looks just like it should as long as everything went according to your plan. You can see here that I said I'm going to do a femtosecond laser. It is automatically right there, put in some verbiage for the femtosecond laser, and the rest of this all looks exactly like it should for that surgery that went straight forward with no problems. So those are some of the tricks I'm using with VERACITY that really make my day go smoother. It helps patients understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, and helps to improve my premium conversion rate. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Yuri. Now we have Dr. Joe Parisi, who will be talking about how to integrate VERACITY with Callisto Eye.
Thanks, Liz. And thanks to all the other presenters here as well. I think this has been a great overview of the VERACITY system. I'd like to go over a couple of things with VERACITY. We have a fairly large practice throughout the state of South Carolina, so multiple doctors, and we've found VERACITY to be integral in allowing all of us to use a single platform that we can share data on, look at results with, and really helps practices in disparate areas of a state to kind of come together and use a common tool to make all of our lives better. Liz went over very well how this is a huge, huge time saver in terms of planning and efficiency. One of the things that has been a huge time saver. We all know the difficulties and the frustrations with dealing with patients who have had previous refractive surgery, LASIK or PRK or RK, and all the other hoops that we need to jump through for that. And this might look familiar to a lot of folks. This is kind of the traditional method that we've all gone to calculate lens powers for post-refractive patients. And this is the Ascaris calculator, which has been very, very handy. I mean, I come from the days even before this when we didn't have this, and we did all of these calculations that Warren Hill has outlined here by hand, and that took a huge amount of time. So when this came on board, we thought we died and gone to heaven, but still, this requires going through a separate website, pulling your data out of your records, manually entering everything, looking at your data from your various devices to input. And you do get a great little printout that gives you several different formulas to choose from. And the latest one that's been integrated into this has been the Barrett TrueK. You know, as I've used this platform up until we've had VERACITY and looked at my results, I've really come to depend on the Barrett. And I've found that the Barrett calculator, or the Barrett formula in this case, has been my go-to and has been the one that we have elected to use out of all of these, even though we've run them all. So it's no surprise that this is the one that's been incorporated into the VERACITY planner. And this really makes planning post-refractive cases very simple because everything is in one spot. You don't have to be jumping all around to pull data and enter data from different devices. The first thing I'd like to show you is right at the top here. You know right away that this is a pre-LASIK PRK patient. And if the data has been entered correctly, we know that it's either myopic or hyperopic or it's RK. And this will allow VERACITY to suggest various lenses based on our customized and predefined preferences in the program. For example, it will tell you if this has been a prior hyperopic LASIK that you may want to consider a lens that does not have a significant spherical aberration component to it. And that's very helpful in making sure we've had the proper lens selected. We can see here that there's, again, all of this is customizable based on your preferences and the lenses that you like to use and the formulas that you like to use, et cetera. But you can see that within those preferences, it gives us a choice of lens options, choice of target powers, and automatically calculates those for us. And Here we see the Barrett TrueK formula listed as the one that the VERACITY program has automatically chosen, knowing that this is a post-refractive case. Even down here, we see because it's a toric lens, it's chosen to calculate the toricity with the Barrett TrueK toric platform. And we didn't have to tell it to do any of that. All of our various topographies have been included. So if you use multiple devices, they will all be displayed here. Also, our posterior corneal powers from whatever devices that you've used are displayed here. And we have the option of using any one of these devices, or we can use Barrett's integrated K formula to use his proprietary weighting to utilize all of this data into an amalgamated keratometry reading for the anterior K. And so because it's a toric case and because we have the ability to use Callisto, we can also choose that preference as well and allow this data to be forwarded to our Callisto device. We then look at our alerts, make sure we are aware of the validation criteria and the alerts, and click off on those, and then we are good to go. I really believe that the VERACITY program has offered huge amount of benefit in terms of time saving, calculation, and its marriage with Callisto has been wonderful for us in terms of our OR efficiency. So from the VERACITY side, we can see this web-based software, which integrates so well with your electronic medical records, can pull data such as visual acuities, refractions, keratometries, biometries. It can integrate with Forum if you have ZEISS Forum to look at your images. And it integrates directly with your IOL Master or LensStar, Pentacams, Atlas, Cassini, and those list of devices is growing all the time. It allows our surgical planning to be customizable based on your favorite lenses, your favorite formulas, how you like to do surgery, where you like to put your incisions. Do you use LensX? Do you use some other form of femtosecond laser surgery? And allows us to, in surgery, become more efficient. We get a printable template surgery plan, or you can use your laptop or tablet right in the OR to pull up your surgical plan as well. You get a customizable operative note, and you get post-operative analysis as has been discussed. Bring into the picture now Callisto, which we had the fortune to be able to use early on, and in the early days did not have the integration with VERACITY. But as you know, Callisto is a hardware software interface that allows a preoperative capture of an image from your IOL Master 700, and then integrates well with the ZEISS Lumera operating microscope to match the intraoperative image with that preoperative image to give you alignment purposes during surgery. Software and hardware can also import data initially via the USB drive and now via the cloud with our integration with VERACITY. This allows you to view patient data on the Callisto screen in the OR and also in your microscope parameters, and even see your video frame in the eyepiece. We also, with Callisto, and this is probably the part that most of us love about it, are the overlays that we get for planning incisions, manual LRIs, capsular rhexis tracing, and aligning toric lenses with the Z-Align toric digital marker. So this helps us tremendously. Obviously, there is no preoperative axis marking in the OR. That increases your throughput and your efficiency and increases the precision of the axis marking. So I want to illustrate that with a case of a 68-year-old gentleman who presented with cataract surgery with a little astigmatism. The plan was for monofocal toric IOLs because of his history of strabismus and amblyopia. And so in his VERACITY planning, right away we can see his refraction is here, his keratometry is here, both anterior and posterior, gives us a net astigmatism value, and has selected my lens. This screen just shows the anterior and posterior keratometries that have been input via our IOL Master and Atlas topographers, and I've chosen to use my IOL Master keratometry values, both anterior and posterior. But you can look directly at your biometric data from your IOL master in the images section. You can pull up any number of images from your diagnostic equipment if you want to just verify that those numbers were accurate. You can also look at the toric calculation, play with the toric value, T3 to T4. What does that do to my residual astigmatism? In the same way that you can go up and down with your spherical lens power to look at your target refraction. We see this little tiny red TV screen up here, and this is our icon for Callisto. And right now it's red because the final approval for the plan has not been completed. So Callisto is not ready to be sent over the cloud to the Callisto device. So we can go down to the bottom of the screen and we can choose Callisto from our list of possible surgical techniques. We get a generated operative printout that we can use in the OR, or we can view this directly on a tablet, and it has all of our information, including that we've chosen Callisto and any concerns that we have been alerted to up front, as well as our printable image of the toric alignment axis. All of that comes to the screen. It's in the OR attached to the microscope, and this is where the techs verify that the image capture has been made and all of the patient information is there. And this all comes via the cloud because Veracity is cloud-based as well, and there's no USB to bring to the OR and upload patient data, which has really improved the efficiency there. This can give us any number of overlays from incisions, manual LRIs, Rexus creation, toric alignment overlays, and even with a keratoscope visualizing corneal curvature data. Here we can see that we can view directly our imagery from our Atlas topographer to view the curvature and the curvature data. We can even look at biometric data, any of the images that come from our Atlas biometer, as we saw before, very easily with just a click of a button. And you can see your toric alignment. You can view the actual numbers. And we can go in and easily start planning the case just by selecting which eyes we're doing and clicking on Start Planning. And then it brings up our template, as you've seen now several times. And we can see lens selection here that has been chosen by Veracity, and we can confirm that. And as you scroll down, you can look at your IOL powers, the toric calculation, the keratometry values. And again, we have the option here of using any one of those keratometry values or an integrated keratometry. We see our posterior Ks and our biometry values as well. And then way down at the bottom, we have the section where we can choose to activate Callisto in the program, which we'll see here. So we've chosen Callisto. Now we can go back up to check our alerts, make sure that we are okay with those validation criteria. Once we've done that, we see that we can now look at why our Callisto image is still red. It's set to do all of the things that we may want it to do. And you can see the ability of this Callisto to do a number of different overlay markings. But the plan is yet to be completed. Once we approve that plan, we see that little symbol turn to green, and now we're good to go. And that information is automatically captured by the Callisto device via the cloud. We can get an OR note to use as well as a summary for the operation. Again, all that information comes to the OR technician. They will then capture an image via the ZEISS Lumera microscope, which gives them the ability to plan this overlay. And this is the Z-Align toric axis digital marker. And this, again, is customizable. If you don't like 3 lines, you can choose to have 1 line, and whatever is your preference. But the beauty of it is that no matter how much the eye moves around, that image is locked in place because it's been matched with your preoperative image. So it's a pretty simple step to just kind of move that lens around and align it with these pre-placed digital markings, which are very stable and really assure you that you have the best alignment possible and you're not relying on marks on the eye. This has all been done automatically. You didn't have to spend time sitting the patient up in the holding area to mark the eye. And once it's lined up, we can then even take a still photograph for documentation. And that's as simple as stepping on the pedal of the microscope to click the camera. And then that still image can be exported to VERACITY and ends up in the VERACITY program, as you see here. And this is your documentation going forward that you have adequate alignment based on your toric marking. In summary, we have this wonderful cloud-based mechanism for data export and import that allows capture of information from your office to the OR without having to transport data on a USB or any other device. It improves our preoperative planning efficiency, allows us to plan these cases, whether they're post-refractive cases or toric cases or multifocal cases, much more efficiently, improves our efficiency within the OR with patient throughput without having to mark patients' eyes, toric planning. We have integration with our microscope in the OR, improved precision of toric lens alignment, and ultimately improved outcomes. So I hope that gives you a little bit of an insight into how we've been able to use Callisto and VERACITY together. Thanks.
Now we're going to turn it over to the Dr. Brandon Ayers, who will be discussing the simplified delivery of information through wireless connectivity.
I want to talk a little bit about increasing efficiency using ZEISS VERACITY. These are my financial disclosures. I am a consultant for ZEISS, but it's not going to really impact the subject matter of this talk. And this is all about me and it's all about you. It's all about the surgeon and saving time and saving efficiency. And this is not meant to be about who is Brandon Ayers, but I want to go over how my practice is set up and how VERACITY helps. All right, so I am fellowship trained in cornea and external disease. I work a lot with AAO and ASCRS, and I have I'm the co-director of the cornea fellowship at Wills Eye Hospital, and a lot of people see me as a academic cornea specialist, and I am fairly academic. I like teaching, and that's a big part of my life. But I'm also a shareholder in what's called Vantage Eye Care, and Vantage Eye Care is basically a large private practice. My subset of Vantage Eye Care is called Ophthalmic Partners of Pennsylvania, also known as OPP. And if you grew up in the 90s, that means you know me. All right, so what's the point of this, right? I've got two sides to my life. Okay, Vantage Eye Care is my private practice, and my academic affiliation with Wills Eye Hospital is another part of this. So I am a part of a private practice. It's referral-based for cornea and anterior segment surgery as well as cataract surgery, and 100% of my income comes from the private practice. So I don't receive a salary for any of the academic things that I do. It's 100% voluntary. In fact, it actually takes away time from the private practice because it doesn't generate revenue. Now, there's other things that being academic does generate. I love the teaching aspect of what I do, and I love the camaraderie with my colleagues, but I've done other discussions and talks, and people say, well, you can do that because you're an academic doctor, you have a salary. Well, that's not true. It's private practice. I have to generate my own revenue. And since I do split my life into two halves, being efficient with data and efficient with seeing patients is even more critical. So data collection is very important. So here's what my commute looks like. I'll say the center of my practice is in Philadelphia, and that's going to be Wills Eye Hospital. And there we have a variety of diagnostics, almost everything. IOL masters, OPDs, Pennicams, we've got A and B scans, topographers, UBMs, you know it. Now I'll move a little bit west, and one of my larger offices is in Bala-Cynwyd, Pennsylvania, which is about 6 miles from Center City. And there we have another slew of diagnostics, lens stars, IOL masters, OPD scans, Pennicams, B scans, topographers. And now we're going to go over into what we call East Philadelphia, which is really New Jersey. And I have another office with more diagnostics. And I think you get the point. And this has been also talked about with some of the other presenters, where we are all over the place with a variety of diagnostics. And who knows where I'm actually going to be. I could be coming back from a meeting or going from one office to another or in the OR. And it used to be that I was able to get static data through my EHR system. I could see a picture of the IOL master. I could find a picture of the pentacam or topography, but there was no back and forth, and there was no way for me to modify that data if I needed it. It was also quite cumbersome to log in and get that data in a short amount of time. So with Veracity, I'm able to get data and manipulate that data on the fly. Now that's very, very different and much more time saving. If I wanted to change something before, I'd have to call my scheduler, hey, can you rerun the IOL master for a target of -1? Or nope, I need to do the toric. Can you log on to the ASCRS calculator and do the toric calc for me and send me a picture of that in 5 minutes as I'm commuting into the OR? So there's a lot of time savings for me with Veracity, with multiple sites and multiple diagnostics, pulling everything into one central data point, which for me ends up being my tablet. Now, another time savings is in the office. We have a very confusing protocol in the office because we're not doing cataract surgery alone. Cataract surgery is a large part of what we do, but many times there's something with that cataract or about that cataract, or it's combined with another procedure. So our protocol for cataract surgery, well, it may be a single piece acrylic, a 3-piece IOL, a toric, or a trifocal. And the technician is trying to figure out, well, what's he going to do? I'm not sure. How do I set up the IOL master or LensStar or Pentacam for what he wants? What's the formula preference going to be? Will we want a topography or not? What do I need to put the manifest refraction in, keratometry? What's my patient profile? We saw some data on polling patients. Now, what if it's an IOL exchange? Well, my technician might not know that. So here I'm going to want probably a 3-piece acrylic IOL. I'm still going to want my topography, maybe a manifest refraction, keratometry, cell counts. And now if we're going to combine this with something like an endothelial keratoplasty, everything changes again. It's a different IOL. It's a different target refraction or post-operative aim. I still want my topography, keratometry, cell counts. So there's just a lot going on. And every time a technician would bring me a piece of data that was almost right, but not quite, I'd say, you know what, can you please rerun this or redo this? It's time lost in the office. It's us sitting around. And more now than ever, efficiency in the office is critical. We have less time, more complicated patients, and more to do in the office, including now checking temperatures on every patient and a history as to their health. So with Veracity, okay, this allows integration of the multiple diagnostics devices between locations. Okay. It also allows me to manipulate the data without needing direct access to the device. So it doesn't matter anymore if they show me the IOL master printout with the wrong implant, the wrong A constant, or the wrong target. I can change it on the fly. I don't have to go back and do anything. In fact, the Veracity program helps lead me down the correct path of IOL selection for these patients. So it really streamlines my surgical decision-making. And for me, it's made me a better refractive cataract surgeon by reminding me of some of the issues with the patient, how much astigmatism they have, whether they've had prior laser refractive surgery. So it saves time in the office, reduces my dependence on the technical staff. It simplifies the on-the-fly decision-making, and I've even used this on the way back to the OR when a patient made a last-minute decision as to what kind of IOL they wanted or what the target refraction was going to be. So let me just show you a little bit about Veracity in action. This is an unedited video, including the login process. I am so frustrated with long logins. That's how fast it takes to log into Veracity. Then you can look at your patients in progress, or here I'll show a patient with a very quick scheduling or planning for cataract surgery. So we'll pick out our patient. You can see almost instantly, based on the preferences you set up in Veracity, you will start getting IOL selection data. So here we're going to do a cataract extraction on this patient's right eye. You can decide if you want a monofocal, a toric, a trifocal, whatever you want. It's very simple. All your preferences are in there. In this case, looking at the amount of astigmatism, we are going to do a toric IOL. It already has my target plan, and that's all it took for planning a toric. No more going back to the ASCRS calculator. It's already done. I can just talk to the patient and say, this is what I think is going to be best for you, and we can move on. Now, Veracity also allows you to manipulate the data to your preference. So you can see here, I'm just playing with the toric power of the implant. In some cases, I might want to flip the axis. In other cases, I might not want to flip the axis. And you can do that just by simply clicking a couple of buttons. Other people have already showed how you can integrate other diagnostics into Veracity, and I think that is a huge advantage. This works with the majority of our diagnostics. It doesn't only work with ZEISS products. So I can use my OPD scan, I can use my Pentacam, I can use my LensStar. I don't have to buy a lot of equipment. We'll put a little bit of data in there about some findings I have on this patient, just reminders for me, poor dilation, maybe I want to ring, maybe I want to use some intracameral medications, and then we'll eventually go to approving our plan. Now, what if the patient, you get to the OR and they say, you know what, I thought about what we talked about, Dr. Ayers, and I think that I might want to be a little bit nearsighted. And that's happened to me before where, you know, I always go to the patient's bedside and as a reminder, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Smith, you've never had surgery or you've had LASIK surgery. Let's just confirm things. They confirm everything. We're on the way. Then say, you know what? You talked about monovision. I did use monovision. I'd really like to be a little bit nearsighted. Well, that would usually cause panic. But now I can just go to my computer or tablet. I can unapprove the plan and I can make a quick change right there on the fly. It's no longer a phone call to my scheduler, having her send me pictures of the IOL master, finding the patient, and stalling for time in the operating room. Now, one thing that we haven't talked about much is, you know, Veracity does give us a collection of data. It's easy to get that data, but it's also the portability of the data that I think is essential. I don't have to go to a workstation to get information on my patient. This is all available on a tablet. So I just carry my tablet with me and have all the data that I need. So with Veracity, it's the intermediate between all of my data and me as the surgeon. It has the questionnaire for the patients. It talks to my EHR system. It talks to the biometer, and I can talk back to it to make changes. It can show me my topography, and that gives me all the data that I need right there on my tablet in the OR. So Veracity dramatically saves time with us in the office and in the OR when it comes to IOL and surgical decision-making. It reduces my dependence on my technician, and it reduces technician dependence. They don't have to know exactly what I want. They can focus on getting good scans, and I can manipulate the data. So there's no need for that predictive technician in the office. It has definitely improved our quote unquote paperless environment. We don't need to print out our IOL masters anymore, saving us time and money. And it greatly improves office flow and patient throughput, which now is more critical than ever. And maybe also now more critical than ever is we've seen an increase in our premium IOL utilization and conversion rates since we started using Veracity. And I really think that's because it puts the data in front of me and in front of the patient. I can digest that data and try and make the best decision for the patient all in real time.
Well, hi, good morning to good afternoon, everybody. You are with this fantastic faculty. We are doing a live Q&A for the Sweet Hour, which just played within the surgical realm of that online ZEISS virtual experience. As you can see, I have fantastic docs with me with Dr. Brandon Ayers, Dr. Yuri McGee, and Dr. Joe Parisi. What we want to do is engage you guys. Please join in and type in your questions. We'll be checking that information very, very shortly and throughout. But in the meantime, we'll also fill in with some good, lively discussion. My name is Elizabeth Yu. I'm with a multi-specialty private practice known as Virginia Eye Consultants, and I'm a cornea and cataract surgeon. And I wanted to go around and have everyone introduce themselves and actually also start with giving us a little recap of when you started utilizing Veracity. So I'll start with you, Brandon. Brandon, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry. So, yeah, my name is Brandon Ayers. I'm from the Philadelphia area, cornea and anterior segment surgeon. And I've been lucky enough to be using Veracity. I think we're moving on 2 years now. I had some early access to it and was, I think, helpful in working out some of the bugs. And now it's really ready for prime time. And so, yeah, I've grown to love Veracity over the past couple of years, and it just keeps getting better and better. I mean, on a weekly basis.
And Dr. McKee?
Yeah, Yuri McKee here, East Valley Ophthalmology out in Mesa, Arizona. I'm about the same as Brandon. Came in a year and a half, 2 years ago on Veracity, and it was early then, and we've worked through a lot of the issues, and now it really flows smooth. And to be quite honest, I wouldn't be willing to go back to the old way of doing it. It'd be too painful. I'd have to hang up my spurs and do something else. Just kidding. But it's really useful. It takes anyone who's got any reasonable volume of cataract surgery and just streamline it. And the time savings is phenomenal. It really is. So we're doing a lot of extra things now that's just above and beyond, the cherry on top, not just regular, straightforward surgical planning, but lots of things we'll talk about, hopefully in this Q&A, with operative note generation and artificial intelligence to not miss unusual corneas or post-refractive corneas, things like that.
Great. And of course, Dr. Joe Parisi.
Hi, I'm in South Carolina, upstate, Greenville area, Clemson area. And just like the other guys, started using Veracity a couple of years ago, sort of early adopter when I saw it at the ASCRS meeting at the show. It's become kind of the glue to what holds all of our surgical planning together. We use a number of different devices as everybody does. We used to go to a number of different websites to do calculations, and to just have something that pulls it all together in one user-friendly format that we can go to and just become way more efficient in our surgical planning and also in our operative time in the OR. It's just been a great addition to our practice, and really being adopted well by all of the other surgeons in our group too. So excited to share experiences with everybody out there.
Actually, Joe, you really bring up a great point. So, I started with Veracity, actually, I remember February last year. So it's been about 14 months. We've logged in, I think, about 1,300 of my cases. And my main COMT, who helps me with my lens calculations, she tells me very specifically that she saves between 2 to 5 minutes per patient. So the efficiency component of the lens calculations, that's certainly my favorite feature. But we kind of wanted to champion it with one surgeon, make sure that everything, all the I's were dotted, the T's were crossed, and any of the kinks that we talked about. Like, for example, last year when we first onboarded, while it was able to automatically stream in and input the information from the lens star, but Atlas wasn't quite ready yet, and Cassini wasn't quite live yet. Now, in that short 12-month span, Atlas, Cassini, OPD, all of these other technologies automatically have been interfaced, and plus greater platforms of the EHR. Next Gen was onboarded early last year, hence which is when we came on. So how was that experience for you, Joe, with regards to, it started with you, it sounds like, and now other adopters, but how did that take place to make it flow as smoothly as possible?
Sure, Liz, you're quite right. And similar experience. There were initially not every device was integrated, and the developers were spot on, very responsive. As I made suggestions, it was kind of a sort of a beta testing environment at that point. As we were making suggestions, they were responding very quickly, getting those other devices onboarded, so that now we have Pentacam and we have Atlas and we have our IOL Master 700s. And the latest thing for us is Callisto, which has been amazing to have that over-the-air kind of integration in the OR, with very little for the techs to have to worry about in terms of implementing that the data. But So I was the one that started it. I got sort of my feet wet in it and took all the arrows initially. And now that it's working really, really well, we've got all of the other surgeons in our group wanting to jump on board. And I think it's great to have everybody using the same platform, even though we may use different techniques and different ways to calculate lenses. We can share data. We can look at our data post-operatively, and it's that whole integration has been overall very smooth because of the responsiveness of the team out there.
Oh, that's wonderful. Brandon, Yuri, any additional thoughts?
Well, I think all in the same boat where I was the initial person to use Veracity in the office. Very quickly, I wouldn't even call them kinks, just Veracity grew and it became a much better system, able to integrate all the diagnostics. And now we're branching it out to the other surgeons. And I think for me, my favorite part is, I guess, is twofold. One is that we no longer have to worry about who is using the diagnostics at the time. So all of the customization happens at the level of Veracity. So when it comes to my tablet, it's what I want to see. It's my IOLs, my formulas, my favorites. And two is that I can get that everywhere. You know, I mentioned that in the talk that I was so tired of having to log in, find my my IOL master printouts, you know, digitally, and maybe they weren't right, maybe they were right, but now it all that calculation, all that power comes right to my hands, and I have access to it anywhere within, honestly, within seconds.
That's amazing.
And it just keeps getting better.
And you know, Yuri, so prior to Veracity, I saw that in your section of the talk that now you kind of calculate the lens with the patient, which has had this nice blended side effect of actually patients wanting to adopt an advanced technology because they can kind of see what you're going through with them in that lens calculation. So one, how much extra time does it take in the actual lane, if it takes any extra time at all? And two, is this a change from what you used to do before? I mean, how did you do the lens calculations prior?
Well, traditionally, you know, I talk to a patient, what do you want? And okay, well, I'll see you at surgery. I'll go back to my office and spend, you know, 15, 20 minutes entering data onto every website known to man and come up with a consensus of what I think that lens should be. And there was never any more discussion. And the patients never understood that. They never understood the work that went into that. Now what I do is I quickly flip through every test with them, every topography, every, IOL master, and anything else I'm using. I even show them an objective tear film analysis, which I can use on several different devices like a Cassini or the Oculus device. And so they see all this, and then they see the math that goes into it. And all this takes a few minutes. It takes less time than it used to take me to handwrite it. And also there's no transcription or transposition errors. And I'm getting the right data from the right machines for the right patient for the right eye. And I'm sure of it. Nobody wrote the wrong thing or there's nothing illegible. And so the patients see this, they see me do the math in front of them. I say, this is the lens that you have chosen. Right. So it's kind of like defensive medicine. They can't come back later and say, you chose the wrong lens, doc. I'm like, no, you chose it with me. You know, it's extremely rare. But, you know, let's say someone's unhappy with multifocal. I say, well, but we went through these questions. We asked what your personality was. We asked what activities you want to do. We asked about, you know, these nighttime halos, if you like them or if you couldn't handle them. We checked these together, yes and no. The computer made a recommendation, but we weren't locked into it. And we could change it any way we wanted to. And a lot of people see that and start going, you're right, we did do that. You know what? Now I guess I am happy. There's a big difference between making a mistake yourself and then taking responsibility or blaming someone else for something bad that happened to you. This has helped me with patients who were maybe unhappy with their multifocal. And now they're like, no, I did choose that. I am going to be happy with it. And it helps with people who understand how much work goes into calculating a lens. And they realize this is not a small deal and there's a lot of effort. And that's part of, you know, why they're paying us, is to do all this effort. And I just involve them in that. I think that helps a lot.
Great. In the last few minutes that we have, I want to talk about kind of upcoming features that you guys have had insight to. But before I get to that, Brandon, I want to ask you one other question about the portability component of Veracity. You know, I'm at multiple locations and I realized that prior to Veracity, sometimes it's not, some key diagnostics are not being uploaded. And so I can't have access to that IOL master unless I call the clinic or I have somebody then upload, and it's just a JPEG picture of it into EHR. And that takes time, right? So do you notice that from clinic to clinic, how has that been? I understand from your clinic and your iPad to the OR, but amongst different computers and satellite offices.
Oh, I mean, that was probably the biggest game changer for me, was the ability to have easy access no matter where the diagnostic was. I've had more than one panic-stricken phone call, to my scheduler. Oh my gosh, I need to look at the IOL master for this patient right now. And then, well, she'll come back. Oh, I can't find it. What office was it done at? I don't know. I can't remember. It could have been a 1, 2, or 3. I don't think they uploaded it, so I'm not sure where it is. And we're doing these like background emergency IOL checks, and we're scouring the office, and that's just all gone now. Now, that shouldn't happen all that often if you do your planning correctly, but that 1 or 2 times that the patient makes an on-the-fly change, or you need to make a change in the OR that you didn't expect, having the access to the data, no matter where the data point came from, for me that's what I was looking for. So I was hunting for something that could do this for me. Veracity was the answer to what I wanted, and it's been just fantastic. And I've even had patients go to an office for a diagnostic that I don't have in the other office, and then Veracity brings them all together for me. So now it's almost like I have one office with just different branches, and all the data comes right to me. So I think for me, that was the single biggest game changer and time saver. And that's why there's no way that you're going to pry Veracity out of my hands.
Yep. So there are a few features that are really fantastic that, we haven't really, we didn't really get into in detail during the webinar. And that includes like the op note generation, the post-op data analysis, as well as features that will allow kind of greater machine learning and artificial intelligence to catch things that we may miss. Yuri, Joe, tell me about your utilization of any of those features. I'll start with Yuri.
All right.
Oh, Joe?
I've been using the op note generation from the beginning, and it was a little rough at first, but it's pretty much come around, and now they're coming out with version 2.0, which is truly artificial intelligence. So it's going to start to track what did you intend to do and how did it turn out, and then just automatically generate those op notes for you. So that's huge. That's a huge time saver to stand up at the end of the case and click approve, and you're done, and the op note's good and it's perfect. So that's coming soon. And then the other thing that is not released yet, but I've been working on it with Warren Hill and Doug Koch and some others, and that is, how do we know that we didn't miss refractive surgery? And a patient says, I've never had surgery in my life. And you're like, well, that's a flat cornea, your Gallstrand ratio is off. Do you look at all these things with every patient? Well, see, we're training Veracity to start to do that. And so that's very exciting on the horizon.
And Joe?
Yeah, I agree with the op note generation. I'm excited about the new platform coming out. We made just sort of brief forays into the original op note, and parts of it were a little cumbersome. So they've done a great job in making it a lot smarter, and it will be a very simple and easy to use tool to do your op note very, very quickly and on the fly. So if you change things in the middle of a case while you're doing it, it's a matter of the tech or you at the end of the case just clicking a box, and that automatically generates the note in that portion of the note for you and changes your coding. And if you happen to use a Malyugan ring, if you happen to break a capsule, whatever, those things get changed, and the coding is updated appropriately. So that's exciting to be able to get my hands on as well. We've been really fortunate to be one of the first groups to be able to use Callisto with Veracity, as we do a lot of premium lenses, a lot of torics, and prior to having the Veracity link, we were using Callisto, but it required us to bring a little thumb drive with us to the OR and plug that in, and then the techs had to go through what seemed like a little bit of gymnastics with the computer to get all of that stuff in there, and that's just gone now. I don't bring a thumb drive in because Veracity is web-based. It's just pulled in by the Callisto system over the air. All the data is there. All the patient's information is there. They literally just click on an image in the OR and match it up, and we're good to go. So it's I don't mark patients anymore out in the hallway, and the alignment is true and it's on. It's bang on. So it's wonderful to use, and that's kept me going with it lately.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, I mean, as our cataract surgery volume continues to grow, truly, and it's going to be a really steep incline as we face the volume over the next 10 years. The name of the game is how can we be more accurate as well as more efficient with keeping all the patient information in mind. And that just continues to grow from a diagnostic standpoint. And we're very fortunate to have these different formulas and capabilities, but how do we utilize it in an efficient manner? That really is what Veracity as a solution can provide for us. So I just want to thank my fellow doctors, Dr. McKee, who is in the office and taking time from his clinic, which I'm sure people are hounding at the door. And so thank you for being with us from clinic. Dr. Ayers, Dr. Parisi, I appreciate you doing this live Q&A with me. And to everyone out there, I hope that you guys can join us for ASCRS the rest of the weekend, and be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.